So Monica is a climate activist and environmental advocate from Nepal. She works in climate education and sustainable development. She was a program officer at the Center for Environmental Education in Nepal. Um, and she was the advisor and past president of CliMates Nepal. And she's been leading and organizing Nepal's first local conference of youth on climate awareness and advocacy work. Um, so she's going to discuss with us some of the work that she's been doing, and then after she's concluded her presentation, we'll open it up for a little bit of discussion and and go from there. So, Monica, thanks again for joining us here, and I will turn this over to you. And like I said, if anybody has any questions, there's only a small handful of us in this live presentation, so I think it's probably okay to, you know, make it known that you wish to ask something, and but otherwise we'll try to sort of save the discussion for the end. So, Monica, the floor is yours.
So namaste everyone. My name is Monica Neupane. I'm living in Kathmandu right now, and currently, I'm involved in my personal project, and I'm also involved in starting a sustainable venture. And for today, like what I want to share is about my field work and my grassroots level work that I got chance to do in my past jobs or my past engagement. So I'd like to start with my journey, how it started actually. So it started back in 2018 when I finished my bachelor's degree. I studied environment science, and after that, I started my engagement in multiple, youth-led organizations. And that was the time when I realized that whatever I studied, nothing was in practice, and I needed to know more. Overall, the degree was just for the marks, just to pass and get some certificates. But when I got chance to engage with the organizations that were actively working on climate change, that when like I felt like I need to do something in this field, and whatever I was studying, I need to make it impactful. So that's in 2014 when I joined a youth-led organization called Himalayan Climate Initiative, where I attended a session for sustainable development goals. It was a 2-day training session where I pledged that I will be working to make, grassroots level communities, grassroots level climate vulnerable communities, and help them how to understand the consequences of climate change and how we can improve our living conditions through different adaptation measures. So since then, like I have been actively working in multiple organizations and engaged in multiple projects in the same organization. I worked at Himalayan Climate Initiative for almost a year as a volunteer, a full-time volunteer, and there I got chance to meet like-minded individuals who were working on this specific climate activism journey. I also got chance to be a part of multiple campaigns which were majorly focused on plastic, minimizing the plastic use, and also avoiding the single-use plastic. So there was this campaign called "No Plastic, No Straw in My Drink" campaign, where we reached to almost 300 restaurants in Kathmandu Valley to give them options to switch to reusable or recyclable plastic, paper, or metal straws, and avoid the single-use plastic in their drink. And we were successfully able to convince almost 150 restaurants. However, we were able to aware people from almost 300 restaurants. So that was the first campaign that I got engaged to. And one thing I learned from that campaign was that, like, usually we think that they are the restaurant owners, that it will be difficult for them to make convince how it will impact the environment. Usually, it is like sought that people from different backgrounds who didn't study environment science don't understand the concept of protecting the environment, or how our small action can bring the change. But like when we went in the restaurant and we talked to the restaurant's owner, it was much easier. They were easily convinced, and we also maybe we used a technique where we tried to make it more relatable to them, in the perspective what they wanted to listen. So maybe that was one of the reasons, but it was a huge success for us. So one of the campaigns was that, and also as the president at CliMates Nepal, I started like volunteering for CliMates Nepal since 2019. And since then, we organized multiple, events and panel discussions where we tried to engage with youth more. We organized online sessions during the COVID. We did almost like 50 plus online sessions about conference of parties, how UNFCCC works, how policy negotiation is done. And we brought multiple national and international speakers who were directly brought into the same platform where the youth and the experts could engage. So that's how like my engagement in CliMates Nepal more specifically was. And also apart from that, I got chance to learn how we can learn and gain experience in event management. Since we like organized a lot of panel discussion, one of the major successful events were local conference of youth, climate action simulation, where we could identify how climate change will be in few years, how and all the youth came together and used the simulation tool. We created one um, actual hands-on practical UNFCCC negotiation process in one specific area where youth got to know how we can contribute in global stock take, global negotiation process. So that's like my major objective of joining these youth-led organizations was to make people aware and make young individuals like me aware about what we study and how we can make it implementable, how we can make it like use all the education materials in hands-on practical way. And also apart from that, I worked as program officer at Center for Environment Education Nepal, where I led a project called SDGs in Action, which was later known as PBL, which is also called project-based learning. So this specific project targeted school students, where we taught school students about climate change, about environmental education, about biodiversity conservation. It was an annual project where every month students got one specific thing. For example, sometimes they got food and agriculture, sometimes they got waste, sometimes they got biodiversity conservation. So every month students were divided into groups, and they had to develop a project work about the theme that they got, and they had to do go through all the problem solving ideation phase throughout the entire month in different sections. And at the end they had to the students had to develop one project as their final submission. So like the major objective of doing this project and developing this project was to promote project based learning, and and while integrating the components of the curriculum of the textbooks, but through community engagement, through critical thinking, through identifying some specific problem of the communities. And we were able to reach to 15 plus schools in Kathmandu Valley, and more than 2,500 students. We taught them about climate change and environment education throughout 3 years. time interval. And also apart from that, we also developed a similar project, but specifically for rural schools. And one thing, like major barriers, as I say, in these two, private and government school, we identified was the knowledge gap. So we designed the project in more local way, where we, like, while we compare these two projects, we found a lot of different issues where the students here in Kathmandu Valley got the concept of climate change, understood the concept of climate change quite easily, but in but they didn't have much hands-on experience. They understood the concept, they understood the consequences and everything, but they didn't had the first-hand experience of disasters, of other, like, except from temperature rise and everything else. They didn't have much experience, like practical experience. But in rural areas, what we got to know is that students are facing it in daily basis. Like, they were facing problems going to schools every day during monsoon because of landslide. It was the hands-on, first-hand experience that we could got from the students in rural area. And also, one thing was that they knew the issues, but they didn't know the terminologies and what was causing all these disasters. It was like two different, scenarios, and two different, experience that we got to learn from these projects. And also, apart from that, as you can see, in the picture itself, like the students organized a cloth donation, second-hand thrift culture. To promote the thrift culture, the students collected the second-hand clothes which were not in use, or which were like supposed to be on waste. They collected it and then they donated it to the people who were in like vulnerable ashrams, or like places like that. And also here you can see, we developed this record of 1.8 degrees Celsius that might be our future. It was this specific data was invented, like identified in climate action simulation, where youth identified by like predicting how it might be in coming future, with the current trending emission scenarios and everything. So, and also in the bottom picture you can see, it's like me, who is there like campaigning for the Save Nature project. So this project is also something that like helped me to know more about how policy making works, how we can advocate for any kind of development project which is not beneficial for the environment. So this specific project, Save Nature World project, focused on cutting down a lot of trees, almost 24 lakh trees in Nijgad, to develop a airport which was not in the scenario, which was not extremely important project. So we like had a series of climate strikes for I think a year or more, and still the issue is somewhere we are still advocating for it, but it's much more better than compared to the previous scenario. So so these are some of the engagements that I got chance to throughout the year. And my major learning from all this is that how I can advocate, and how the small action matters. And if I'm willing, like if one individual is willing to do something, then like it's just the first step that you need to take, and later on, like everything goes on smoothly. And I've also experienced that, like sometimes it's extremely tiring while working in climate change, because you don't see the first, and like you may not see the change that you are expecting right away. But slowly and gradually you will see the changes, and how you are impacting other lives as well. So so far, like right now, like when I'm studying and when I look back, about my journey. There were a lot of ups and downs, a lot of successes and failures, but overall it was always the growth that I see. And also apart from that, I got chance to engage in policy making as well through my work as youth climate consultant at UNICEF. I got chance to work with UNICEF Nepal, where we had to create a group of individuals and to identify policies, national level climate policies, and find the gaps in the policies and include young individuals to give their viewpoint, to give their you know um, um, stories, like, and include their viewpoints in the policy making and make it inclusive. So my work with UNICEF was for 6 months, and I was able to identify multiple policies which needed to be discussed further. And I was also able to create a group of policy negotiator. We call it policy negotiators, a group of 100 individuals from diverse region of Nepal. We also engaged viewpoints from young individuals from survey forms about what policies they knew, how they wanted it to work, and how like the individuals could get involved in further, not just in identifying it, but also for monitoring and implementation process as well. So it's still going on, but somebody, one of the team members from the group is taking over in the policy, this advocacy work. So overall, these are my, field of work, I would say, mostly, and my interest mostly is in environment education so far. And moving on, I'd like to share like a story, a grassroots level story, I would say, from my visit to Sindhupalchok Gaupalika, which is one of the rural parts in Nepal. There, I visited multiple times in that 2 year interval. It was annual project, first pilot project. We trained a lot of teachers there about sustainable development goals, about climate change, where we had schools as the main hub, where we go teach this teachers. So basically, I was trying to say that the project that we did in the Palcho, we worked with schools there as well. And and this time, like while working with school, it was not focused, our target was not focused to train or teach the students, but to teach the teachers how they can implement project-based learning in the school itself. Whatever work we were doing here with the schools, like helping them to develop a project, guiding them how the climate change consequences are, and then everything, we trained the teachers to develop projects like such. And also we also focused on doing community surveys. We like reached out to locals, where we like asked them about the questions about the the disasters that they were facing, the cases of landslides that they were having. And one of the major like topics we wanted to know and observe there was about how the disasters and how how the loss and damage is impacting their non-economic impact, like impacting it in a non-economic way, maybe to their mental health, how is it helping, maybe according to their economic stability post migration. So something which we were not like which was not focused. So one of the major objectives of this project was to understand the loss and the damage scenarios in that area. So we started with like teachers training. Throughout the time interval, we had like sessions with teachers for like almost 2 weeks, where we like engaged with like teachers from 3 schools and almost like 30 teachers from different subjects, so that like everybody would know the issues that they have been facing in the community. And so yeah, like while I was there, like with the teachers, it was interesting to know that there were few teachers, few organizations who were helping the schools to improve the education there. So there was one organization called Teach for Nepal who was helping schools to with the teachers, and there were people who could like understand and who volunteer there to guide other teachers who are not from city area, who were not much aware about these terminologies of climate change, loss and damage. So it was not a complex project to engage teachers, but yeah, there were gaps. But like slowly overall, like the 2-year project was a success, and we could see some changes of awareness mostly, and some hands-on practical projects that we developed there. And my observations there during the project was that the indigenous community, it was dominated highly by indigenous community, which is as you can see, Tamang community. They are rich in cultural diversity. They have they are close to nature, so they have multiple um, dependency in nature of, for example, water sources for agriculture, water for drinking, food, timber. They are highly dependent in forest. Also, for the occupation, the majority of the youth, I can say youth and mostly men, were abroad for the job opportunities. And maybe that's like something that's a major trending issue in Nepal. A lot of young individuals are going abroad. So in the village itself, it was one of the major scenarios. And also, few individuals, like few people did agricultural and basic, like every household had a small, kitchen garden or a small farm where they grow food for themselves. And there were some business ventures, shops, and some stationery things which provided the basic item that's needed to survive. So these are the major occupations that I could find there. And the skills that I was uh, like I was shocked to know was the food security skills, one of the major skills, because I've now not been like, I'm a city girl, so I've never visited, like I visit my village, but never spent much time and never spent researching about how indigenous communities function, how food securities can be done, and everything else. So this time when I visited this place, like I got to know they had multiple vegetables they dried, and during the time of crisis, during the time where like it was not the season or extreme cold season, they used those vegetables, they cooked those vegetables. So one major interesting thing that I could see there was food security methods. And also they have a lot of different weaving patterns, weaving techniques, and they are rich in art and culture. And also also they have high, like they are rich in knowledge, that their religion, their this community religion was extremely rich. And also there were also like cultural shocks that I could see in this community. And one thing that I could see is that they know how to use natural resources. They build their own houses, they grow their own food, they have like they develop, they can build anything they need. So this is something maybe all the individuals in the world should learn from indigenous communities, because they just excite me a lot. And also some of the challenges that I got to know from the local individuals that we interviewed was First of all, the area itself, it's extremely vulnerable due to climate change, and it was one of the major uh, center points for the earthquake in 2072. So after like it took a lot of time for them to rebuild after the earthquake happened, and also due to climate change impacts, they are like this community is highly vulnerable in climate induced disasters. We got to know about multiple pests, that were introduced in their agriculture, in their crops, that damaged a lot of production. Also, due to extreme and eradicated rainfall, a lot of crops used to be like was damaged in recent time intervals. Some mentioned that the bird species were declining. They could see a lot of birds like a few years back, but now it's declining. And also landslide, one of the major problems in that area, landslide. Due to landslide, a lot of students were deprived to go to their schools during monsoon season. There was one of the school, like it was the school where the kid we interviewed was the son of one of the major local leaders of that area, and he was not going to the school because it was monsoon, and his school and the school that he studied was right beside a river. And during monsoon, every year the river like took away their schools and something like that. So the school themselves gave a holiday of 3 months for the students. So it was like completely different. Like students here in Kathmandu, they don't face such problems. So it was a little shocking for me, and like I was like continuously searching how we can improve these conditions. But there were a lot of practices that they tried to improve the situation, but something was lacking. Like it's like on process that they have been working on. And also due to landslide and all the disasters, post migration was one of the cases that I got to know from the interview. There was one person, one old grandpa, who shared that whole hill was flown away and people were forced to shift to some place new, all the members. And there is loss of money, loss of lives and chattels and everything. So it was like extremely difficult time for them. And one of the major things was they are experiencing all the consequences of these disasters, but they were not aware like how we can adapt, how we can make it more sustainable. The upcoming projects, how we can make more sustainable, and like how we can minimize the impacts of these disasters. So we also like through the community discussions to address this issue. We had community discussions with local leaders, policymakers, municipality people. We gave them trainings. We had community discussion groups, group discussions with the people in the community. We sent the teachers and students to do the survey to understand their local scenario, and also give them the concept about the global scenario, what's happening in the world, and how we can localize it in our own community. So that's something we got to do. And majority of the population, we observed there was women, elderly or children, because young men mostly went abroad. So we also like identified that whatever problems we identified, the solution should be created in a way that is friendly for women, or friendly for to implement it by women or elderly or whoever is there to take in charge. Because usually what happens is the problems are identified, and maybe if we develop a new technology, it might not be friendly for the user. So we also identified that in this specific community, we need to um, prepare the solutions that can be led by like women of the community. Also, like one of the major challenges was capacity building and vocational trainings that needed to be given in that community, because a lot of um, people there didn't know how new approaches are coming and how the trends are changing. The curriculum was not updated. A lot of gaps we could find, and the teachers' capacity needed to be boosted up. They needed to be trained. So these are some of the challenges we could identify, and we discussed it with the local government as well. And we also identified a lot of organizations who were already working with there. We like approached them for a collaborative monitoring, monitoring for the project that we did. And also we tried to collaborate with Teach for Nepal, who sent the teachers there. So the overall story like that, I could see from this specific area like Sindhu Palchuk, is that like if we were able to provide the right mm, uh, training and right support to this community. They are extremely rich in knowledge, and more specifically, sustainable knowledge, I would say. Like, if they wish, they can live a zero waste lifestyle, which might seem impossible for us while we live in the city. But I think, like one of the major takeaways from this project was that it is possible if you want to live a zero waste lifestyle. And the picture that you can see is that here is a corn peeler. Maybe it is made up of metal, so you could see multiple tools like this, and it was like all made from natural resources. Like maybe there you could find a spoon, wooden spoon made from raw branch of the tree. So it was all DIY, and it was all made by yourself, and extremely interesting to see. So moving on, and this Sindhu Palchak area is a hilly area. So the major, which is like in 3,000 to 4,000 meters from sea level. So it is a hilly area. So the major problem, climate-induced disaster that we could observe there is landslide. But the next story that I'm trying to share, it is in the Tarai region. So mostly the disasters that these people, the Maji community in Sunsari face is the flooding. So there are two different case stories that I would like to share. So the previous project was 2 years. It was a long-term project, so I could do a lot of research. I could develop a video story in the previous, so I could be there for like days. But this story is a short-term, like basically a short-term field visit where I got to know this community. So Maji community basically means people who do fishing for their livelihood. They live nearby rivers. They live near um, Kosi. Everything they dependent was from river. So my observations from this autumn visit was I've never seen a Maji community before actually. So it was something new, and we had to like first of all, it was extremely difficult to reach to this specific community in Sisauli Tapu. So it is so the community we visited, it was kind of like an island during monsoon season. The roads, one road that connects the island was separated, and nobody from the island could come out during the monsoon. It was quite shocking to me. And the community itself, they are also like similar to the previous one. They are close to nature and mostly dependent on the water body for food, for income sources, for everything. They are highly dependent in the water bodies. And the community, they didn't have, it was not much like in population. It was like not highly populated. Like there were few houses, not a lot of them, and there were multiple, island like these, but less people lived there, and also their occupation majorly was fishing and labor work. So financially, compared to the previous community, they were vulnerable financially as well, vulnerable in context of climate change, vulnerable in context of knowledge, not exactly in indigenous knowledge, but in education perspective. Less schools. I think the student like we're supposed to go far away to just to get to the schools and stuff. So like the proper education system, I didn't see much in that area, and they were also facing one of the major issues of forced migration due to flooding. Every year, the water level could reach to their houses, so they had to shift to a little inside toward the island. So forced migration, and a lot of people migrated from the island, like who were capable to go out for better job opportunities or could have better income. So they just migrated. So that's how this community was dealing with the issues, and the majority population was women, elderly, and children only, because in this community as well, the people, young individuals went abroad. First priority was abroad. Second, they went to city areas for labor work. So these are the observations that I could identify from this specific field visit. And one thing that people told me about this community is that biodiversity conservation is lacking there from the government body itself, maybe multiple reasons. But the bird species that they used to observe there, the area itself, the Kosi region, is known for to be a hub of biodiversity. You can find almost like hundreds of bird species in that area. And there is also Kositapu Wildlife Reserve, but nowadays the bird species are extremely low. You can see only one or two type of species like on daily basis, but previously the locals said they could see, like on daily basis they could see a lot diversity of bird species. So that was something that caught my thought. And also, like, some people mentioned, like mainly fishermen mentioned that, like, in recent times, like, people have been using electric currents to kill fishes and do fisheries, because that they can get a lot of fishes at one time and for better income sources. But like that can also contribute in declining the fish species, which is a threat to the biodiversity of water bodies. So that's also some challenges that we could observe from the local bodies. And yeah, the development was not that, the roads were not that good. So it, like, from my perspective, this specific Maji community um is like extremely vulnerable in multiple aspects, not just one specific aspect of climate change, but economically, maybe social, from social aspect, and environmental aspect itself. The focus needs to be shifted to these communities by the government and the like local organizations as well. So yeah, these are some of the work that I would like to share. And there are and right now, like, what I'm trying to do from this, like, from all the experience that I got to observe from my work, is that I'm trying to build sustainable ventures where we majorly focus on solving the urban area issue, but we are trying to support indigenous communities and communities like, Maji communities and Tamang communities. And also we are focusing on educating school students. So like right now we are in ideation phase, and we are applying for seed fundings and stuff like that. But soon we will be like launching projects that will focus all the problems that I have highlighted. And if you have any questions, like you can just or anything if I'm missing.
I think my first question is probably relatively simple. So a lot of people, especially that will watch this specific video, um, are really interested in uh, the Himalayas in general, the Himalayan region as a focal point for climate change issues. What can people do who are not in Nepal, in Tibet, in Pakistan, those places, who want to somehow contribute? Do you have some advice for them for how they could contribute in ways that maybe doesn't require them actually being there?
Um, okay. So this is quite interesting because the entire concept of climate change, it's like extremely complicated. And to find a solution, it's not like one specific person can do something in the individual levels. So if somebody is watching and want to contribute in any manner, is by maybe engaging in projects like through voluntary way, like the project specific, in Sindhupalchok we had volunteers living in Kathmandu, and they created the materials for the school students, and maybe they created the resource items, maybe by funding to these projects they can help. And also one thing I always talk about is that like the climate change is like, as I mentioned, climate change is a extremely complicated topic. So individual small action matters. So if you can just avoid your carbon emission, if you can limit your carbon emission, just directly related, if you want to bring the larger impact. And carbon is the one of the major things that is making the temperature rise. So first step what we can do is to limit our carbon emission, maybe avoid, maybe use public vehicles for a day or two. So that is also smallest action, but it is in some manner, like if every individual started doing that, then it will be helping it in some context. But apart from that, if you want to get directly engaged in similar projects that's happening in Himalayas, then there are a lot of organizations who have specific projects focused on you know, those specific area. You can just maybe reach out to them, apply to volunteer, or connect with people who with the like-minded individuals, and contribute in that manner. So yeah.
Great, great.
In America, we have a part of the country that is just in denial about climate change. And then we have a big hunk of the country that says, yeah, climate change, but I'll die, so it doesn't matter to me. We have these systemic problems. Now, I'm sure that you have analogous ones in Nepal, but I like hearing from activists what their immediate goal would be. What is your goal that makes things a little bit better in your realm?
So, like as you mentioned, there are like a lot of climate deniers. While I'd like to join this, my experience from Save Nature campaign. So that Save Nature campaign specifically focused on, developing a Nishgad International Airport. But the consequences was the consequences of developing that airport was to cut down like 24 lakhs trees, and that area is highly, rich in biodiversity. Like they have like around 500 species of biodiversity, a lot of regenerating plants, which is like in context of Nepal, it is extremely rich in biodiversity. So, which was one of the major, you know, biodiversity hub for everybody. It also covered, a pathway for the elephants that were migrating, and there were a lot of, indigenous communities. Tangya Basti, I guess, we called it. So Tangya Basti had to be migrated, and a lot of, consequences from that project. And while we were protesting for this project, like there were a lot of people who called us development deniers. Like they don't, these people, these individuals don't want development to happen, because in Nepal, development is extremely necessary. People think that are extremely backwards, but they were not willing to understand that we need the environment, we need the trees, we need, like, this is the main thing that we have now. But like what we tried to do is we tried to convince them a lot, and we also, like, we didn't care like how people thought about us. Like there were a lot of leaders who were not willing to listen to us. There were a lot of, organizations who were not supporting us. But what we did is we like continued the momentum, and we tried to give the right information with the facts, about everything, about, and giving them every detail, every small detail that we know, made us a team of, like, maybe we started with 4 to 5 organizations at the initial phase of this campaign. We could reach out to almost 20 organizations, and at the end of the project, like, sorry, the campaign, we were able to reach out. We were a team of 20 organizations altogether, and we were to take the project itself as take to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court denied the development of the project, or not exactly denied, but paused the development for now and shifted the focus to something else. So that's how, like, we got to, we called it a success, because it was extremely difficult and it took almost 2 years for us to do it. So first, like, maybe like we should not stop the momentum just because somebody doesn't believe what you believe, doesn't mean that it's not there. So we have to, believe on ourselves, and if you are trying to do something good, then obviously it will work in, no, sooner or later it's going to work. So that's what happened with us in this specific campaign. And yeah, and providing the right information is extremely necessary, because when you are working with a lot of people at once, the vision, the objective might be, it might be like shifted to something else, or it might go in another like way. People might understand in different levels. So providing them the right information, right facts, is extremely necessary. And it's not, and I believe that it's not very easy to change somebody's behavior. Like, if some so like, to change somebody's behavior, it's extremely, you have to be extremely pushing towards it, and you have to follow up with that a lot. So yeah, these are the three things, maybe, like, what we can do, like, as an activist, what I would say, like, would like to do is, like, always, whatever do, no matter if it's activism or advocacy, or grassroots level project work, what I try to do is try to make people aware what I am trying to achieve from all the projects that I'm engaged in, all the work that I've been doing, how I'm trying to improve it, and how my vision is, so that, and make it relatable to them. Understand somebody, like, the other individual, and make it relatable. If we could make it relatable to them, then somehow we could influence them. So that's something that I've learned so far, you know. Yeah, like, yeah, I can understand that how it might be a lot of information at once. Yeah, while preparing that as well, like I was just confused what to include and what not to, because it's so many things. But and everything is important. Every small project is important. So yeah, like and what I've learned so far from my work is that I've tried a lot of work, campaigning, advocacy, like a lot of different field of work, but a same topic. It's a lot of times it was overwhelming. Every time I needed to learn from the scratch how to understand it better. So yeah, like as much as we discuss, like we get to know it in a better way. So we need to talk first, and then we can move forward with like doing something better. So yeah, yeah, that's something that I'd like to end with. And it was nice like seeing you all. Like I feel extremely honored.